screen. We are going to be starting our course on stabilizing the subluxated lens and a medley of shared screens. I'm just going to transfer you onto it. It's going to be our talk today. And
it's 11 o'clock.
And we have some of the topmost speakers for it. I will be your course instructor. The speakers will be Dr. Chitra Ramamurthy, Dr. Lahane, Dr. Amar Agarwal, Krishna Kudlu, Dr. Ragini, and Cyrus. As you can well imagine, we're going to have a very interesting show. I'm going to start off and wait until the other speakers come. Yes, Dr. Chitra Ramamurthy come. Is she here with us? No. So I'm going to start off immediately. Managing subluxated lenses the easy way. One of the big problems of subluxated lenses is that you have to stabilize the lens. You have to do a rhexis without tearing the weakened zonule. You have to remove the residual nucleus and aspirate the cortex. And finally, you have to stabilize the IOL and the bag. Without much ado, let me show you how it works. This is, as one would say, a course 101 on subluxated cataract. Gives you all the information which you require to get you started on your subluxated times. The title of this program is, one would say, our video is Some Days Are Not So Good. You know, get up in the morning, you're operating, everything is fine. But some days it just doesn't seem to work out as you want it to. Now, as you can notice, okay, it's a hard cataract, nothing much to talk about. But we are going along, doing our rhexis after staining the capsule. All these cases always stain the capsule. Why? Because just in case, for any reason, you have a mishap, the edges of the capsule are visible. So you can then simply put your lens anterior to the capsule in case for any unforeseen circumstance which you may have on tearing the posterior capsule. You do your rhexis. I normally like to use a forceps for no other reason excepting that it gives me a better control. And once you have happened to do this, you do a very light hydrodissection. With this particular patient, we have a suspicion purely because the lens is a little unstable. Nothing is as yet visible, but we just want you to notice. Now notice in this area here, you will notice the subluxated zone. I have tried to gradually remove the lens by hydrodissecting and moving the nucleus of the lens out. So hopefully the lens should not worry. But this is the area I want you to keep looking at. We are doing a very low power and a very low aspiration and a suction. Vacuum is running extremely low because I just don't want any problems occurring. And everything seems to be working, but now you can notice the area of the break in the zonules is progressively increasing. So now we can see almost, as one would say, a quarter segment has now broken open. And this is the time the fun and games start. Now, how do you proceed at this point onwards? The simple answer is you first inflate and enlarge the bag. The easiest way to do that is to use a viscoelastic and blow the bag open. The biggest mistake is to try and do anything at that stage. The next step is push in a capsular tension ring. When you put in the ring, you put it at the base of the area where it is breaking open. So it was breaking open in this zone, so we put the ring at this point. And gradually we inject the ring until it finally slips into place. You know the ring has slipped into place and is proper because the area which you have shown of the zonular break has now been literally controlled. Same way, go on injecting viscoelastic to unroll the flap. The next step at this stage is stop playing. First, put in your lens. Important step is to get your lens in. Once your lens goes in, you can play around and do everything. Otherwise, you're saddled with a broken bag and a lens hanging in your hand. So first put in your lens, turn your lens so that the haptics one of the haptics goes along the line of the subluxated area. So it supports the lens. As you notice, this is the area here. I've got cortical remnants left over. I'm now removing the cortex at a later stage. I'm using a vitrector for no other reason excepting I know that this zone is broken. And I know very well that a certain amount of vitreous will be there. This is the broken zone, but because you're putting the ring, it has supported the bag. So you use your vitrector, clear it, and in the end, remember always to inject a bit of steroid to make sure that you've got no bands left over. So this is a very simple way of handling it. Now let me show you what happened. This is a method of what we call a suturing the IOL to the capsular bag. It's a case of Marfan's, which you've got a subluxated lens, a beautiful subluxated lens. You can't beat it. Similar manner, you proceed ahead, and at this stage, you need to do a rhexis. Nowadays, that we have got a femto, I also use a femto to do it, but you can do it also directly, no problems. You make a little nick, and then you just start off the flap a little. Usually, the best is to start the flap and then lock it into place. But if you can manage it comfortably, you can just do your rhexis with no difficulty. You don't have to do a very large rhexis for the simple reason that usually these subluxated lenses are very soft and you don't need a large amount. Now you put in your hooks and anchor on your capsule. I do not prefer to use capsular hooks which are larger and wider because they tend to slip out. I prefer to use the regular hooks. It seems to work well. Capsular hooks are fine, but they are large and they are very tedious to put in and tedious to manage. Now you do your emulsification using a slow-mo. That means basically slow aspiration, slow motion. Cut down your ultrasound energy to a minimum so that accidentally, even if you touch the bag, nothing will happen. Remove the cortical remnants in the end. And then you put in your ring again. This is the Groider injector. It's a fabulous little tool. If you can manage to get it, nothing equals it. Again, as I said earlier, you put your ring at the point of the break first and then gradually inject it. Having done that, now comes the interesting part. I want you to follow it exactly because it's very interesting. You take a suture, pass your suture down the injector line. So you got your suture hanging outside, which you now tie to your implant. So you got a suture in the injector and you got a tie of the lens here. Now, when you pull the suture out a little, as you notice, the lens will tend to go into the bag. So when you inject it, in the first outside will come the suture and then will come the bag. So this is your suture which you pull out again and inject at the same time. So you got your lens coming. Now we have to take this needle and you have to anchor this zone which is lying subluxated. So the needle goes through under the anterior capsule, through the base of the bag and out into the sclera. And at the same time, you inject the lens in simultaneously. So you first put the needle, then you inject the lens in. And then from outside, you simply pull the suture. Let your lens center inside. Now the loop of your lens, which you have put, is the one which is working there. You don't have to suture it here. You just require to put 3 or 4 passes. Put 3-4 passes of your needle. That is usually enough. And then you can disconnect your hooks and then gradually adjust by pulling on the needle. As you can notice, the bag is gradually going back into place. Subluxation is controlled. You got a lens inside. You didn't do any gymnastics. And then you pass the needle 2-3 times. No suturing required. Just pass the needle 2-3 times. It's more than enough. And then you just simply cut the edge of it all. If you want, you can tie it here up, put one single tie and bury the tie. But even that is very often not required. And that is your post-operative picture, which you will get at the end. So it's a simple technique, easy to execute and gives good reproducible results. Now let's proceed onwards. Has Dr. Chitra Ramamurthy here? Which of our other speakers is Dr.
I'll speak next.
Yeah, Cyrus, you are here. Please proceed.
Yeah.
I'd just like to introduce Dr. Cyrus.
Okay, Chal, let's start. Can you all see my slides?
He is the surgical chief of the International Eye Center. Wait, let me introduce you.
No.
His specialty is robotic surgery, canaloplasty, and smile procedures. He has been awarded multiple awards all over the world.
Guys, can you all see my slides?
Yes, your slides have come.
All right, so let's start then.
You need to blow it up. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So my talk today is on, because this is the subluxated lens course, subluxated lenses and loose zonules. So let's have a look at the first case. I think some of you all must have seen this before. Patient was lying by the pool side and basically sustained blunt trauma from a falling object. Put some eye drops, didn't get any worse, and presented with high IOP and a clear cornea, mid-dilated pupil, and the lens luxating into the AC. So reduce the IOP and let's start and see how this went. So basically you can see that the lens is subluxed into the anterior chamber now, and part of the angle is closed because of this. So this is like a 360 degree zonulopathy due to the blunt trauma, but there's no like single area or 2 or 3 cloacas, nothing like that. So you don't need a ring segment. You should be able to manage this with a CTR. Now the issue is the whole bag is mobile. So we just use pupil hooks now after doing a little hydrodissection to create some space. So just use pupil hooks and suspend the bag up in this manner, and then do a slow motion phacoemulsification. Don't use very high parameters because this is not basically a hard cataract case. This is basically simply a subluxated lens case. Now, maybe this is a little challenging when you have to do IA when the bag is suspended, because a little bit of the cortex can be trapped under the hooks. And just peel it off from the capsule and now inject in the capsular tension ring. So I prefer to use these Off-Tech disposable capsular tension rings which come in an injector because it's a nice thin ring. It's about 13 millimeters and goes in one shot. You don't need much technique and skill to put it in. You just inject it in like you would inject an IOL, and then inject the IOL after that, and it sits very nicely in the bag. And a single piece IOL centered well, and that was basically the end of the case. Let's have a look at the next situation. So in a subluxated lens, should we use a ring segment or should we use an ASIA anchor? When is it indicated? Let's have a look. I have a nice video for this.
Should we use capsule hooks?
So basically,
drop anchor when required in the case of a subluxed lens?
Can you all hear me?
It's not clear at all.
So this is a femtosecond laser system where we are creating the capsular rhexis, and it's a nice punched out rhexis like this. Now we inject in some Helon
Space for us between the capsular fornix anterior rim of the bag
and create some space. In this case, I decided to use capsular hooks because capsular hooks have wider paddles. So it kind of distributes the force. Now we pass the straight needle, railroad it out of the eye. So now you have a capsular ring segment. This is the Gupta segment, and get it out of the eye by railroading it out of the eye. So now your ring segments in the eye, and you can stabilize the capsular bag. Put in a CTR, and we are able to put the lens implant and get a nice centered implant. But now if you have a poor rhexis, the small rim of capsule, what options do we have? Let's look at this kind of situation where now and then the rhexis is going to run out. Here the femtosecond laser wasn't aligned properly. So instead of doing a capsular rhexis, it's basically made some punctures under the capsule. Now we're using a manual capsular rhexis forceps technique, and trying to pull the rexis around, but now you can see the rexis is starting to run out. So you can pull the rexis back in, which I managed to do, but part of it has gone equatorial like this. And because it's gone equatorial, now there's not enough space for a ring segment. So how will you anchor a ring segment? So in this kind of situation, you need a ASIA anchor, which is basically two legs like this. You need a two-pronged attachment like this. Use the tenoprolene suture and pass the needle through the ASIA anchor. Once you pass it through the ASIA anchor and then railroad it out of the eye, and then engage the ring segment, not the ring segment, the ASIA anchor in this case, to hold the capsular bag up. So now the ring segment, the ASIA anchor is centered in the capsular bag. And now I'm passing the straight needle through the sclera twice to lock it. So once you pass this through, you really don't need to make flaps and other things like that. This will do the job. And now we are tying the knot tight. This creates a nice capsular bag, and now I'm injecting the lens inside the capsular bag. You have to inject it slowly so that it doesn't jump off. Because if the lens suddenly opens up, and finally, can we use the single piece IOL as a CTR? This is my final talk. And this I had published many, many years ago when I had lots of free time to do all this. And so basically, this is a ectopia lentis. And why should you have to use a CTR when you have only a localized subluxation like this, not 360-degree subluxation? If we can just use the haptic of a single piece IOL and just suture it to the eye wall, that should do the job. So let's just run through this. You do a nice small rexis. The trick is to do a small rexis. If your rexis runs out, you had it, and then you cannot use this technique because the lens will not sit in the capsular bag anymore. So once you do a small rexis, you then elevate the capsular bag using pupil hooks like this. Evacuate the nuclear material. Do an INA. Inject in a CTR for 360-degree coverage. But just putting in the CTR will not do the job because you have quite a bit of subluxation at 6 o'clock. So for about 3 to 4 clock hours. So now you pass a tenoprolene needle down the barrel of the injector and tie the rear end of the suture to the leading haptic. And once it's connected to the leading haptic, then you just put the IOL inside after railroading the needle out. Even if you don't railroad it, you just go under the iris, pass it under the iris, because where else is it going to come out? It's going to come out exactly where you want it to anyway. So when you have a long straight needle, you don't have to railroad it. You can just pass it out of the eye. So now we are injecting the IOL behind it. So now you have a IOL connected by a suture. You can put it in the capsular bag like so. And remember, the haptic is this big anyway, so it's like a ring segment. And then pass this twice through the sclera and just tie it tight. So this works very well in simple ectopia lentis case like this. And it allows you to use your favorite single piece IOL. You don't have to use a 3-piece and do all kinds of jugglery and flaps and all, which I frankly find quite difficult to do. I find this easier and simple. And that's the end of the case. And this is the typical ectopia lentis situation. So this is the end of my talk, basically. And it's really nice to see all of you all there. Hi, Uncle Amar, how are you? And that's the end of it. So now I'm going to stop sharing my slides. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Cyrus. That was really very nice. That was beautiful.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Acha, is Dr. Chitra Ramamurthy here? No, because she wanted to go a little earlier. Amar is here?
Yep.
Amar, yeah, looking handsome here as always.
Keki,
You are
you're
all
the best.
Coming at 11:45.
Yeah, to introduce Dr. Amar Agarwal
11:45.
is like trying to introduce the President of India. Every single person knows him. He is the chairman of the Agarwal Group of Hospitals, winner of many awards, the most famous being the Kelman Award and the Baracker Award. He is chairman and secretary of the Intraocular Implant and Refractive Society. He is famous for his blued implant, among a whole host of other things. I give you Dr. Agarwal. Amar, please take over.
If they don't know, Dr. Amar Agarwal means either they are not ophthalmologists or then they've been living on some different planet.
Absolutely, absolutely.
First of all, I'd like to thank Keki and Cyrus, who are perhaps done such a great job for Indian ophthalmology. Perhaps Keki is the pioneer of phaco in India, taught everyone, including me, how to do phacoemulsification. And the course which they conduct is not only conducting here, but also in academy, ESCRS and ASCRS, and always a hit. I don't think I've seen a better surgeon than Keki Mehta, to be honest to you, in the planet. There's something special about him. He's got God's gift in his hands. And Cyrus, you are also fantastic. Now coming to, let's talk on subluxations. This was a thing which we started, was the trocar AC maintainer. Because when you have a subluxation, and I'll talk of the IOL and of the cataract both separately, you need fluid in the eye. The advantage in the trocar AC maintainer is, if you're an anterior segment surgeon, you can very comfortably place this very easily into the eye, just above the iris. Now you see here a patient with a subluxed IOL. I made my two scleral flaps 180 degrees apart. Once I made my flaps, now the question comes by trocar AC maintainer. You can see this is 0.5 millimeter from the limbus. All you do is go above the iris. Now, when you have this, you are not worried whether it's going to any subretinal space. Anybody can fix it. Now, the next step is to take the 22 gauge sclerotomy. Once you have made that opening, go ahead and do your vitrectomy. Now, luckily for me, this was a 3-piece IOL inside, which was subluxed. So all we need to do is take 2 glued IOL forceps, and the same IOL after the vitrectomy, I am going to externalize. So you see, this is the handshake technique, moving it from one hand to the other. The first haptic is out, then do the same for the second haptic. And you can see the second haptic caught there and externalized. The whole surgery, you can see how much of time it has taken. Create the 26 gauge needle Gabor-Chariot's pocket. Note carefully the amount of haptic externalized. It's a lot. That is what you need to do. Have enough haptic externalized. Now check, do you have any optic capture? If you have an optic capture, please immediately do the phototropioplasty. In this case, if there is none, all you do is take out the trocar AC maintainer. It is self-sealing. You can inject intraocular pilocarpine and complete this case. So now the question comes, how did this patient look at the end of the day? Let's see it. You're applying the fibrin glue, sealing everything down there. The flap has come down. The conjunctiva has come down. And you can see now the clear corneal incision also sealed with fibrin glue. This is the same patient post-operative day 2. You can see the vision is already improved to 6/9. And you can compare it to the pre-operative and the post-operative picture. Once we have done this, let's move to the second problem which we tend to face, and that is in cataracts in lenses, that is the crystalline lens or a cataract, either way. Now, I showed you just simply in a subluxed IOL, but now let's talk about subluxed lenses, that is the cataracts or things like this, like Marfan's. Keki showed a very nice case of the same thing. Another way to handle it is the way we are showing it. This is a large white to white. Invariably, these Marfan's have large eyes. So we are making the flaps vertical, 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, because that's the shortest distance available for us there. Once the flaps are vertical, rotate the patient so that you are now sitting temporally, because the correct shake for handshake is basically you got to sit at 90 degrees from wherever the flaps are. Otherwise, your handshake technique will not come very well. Here you can see now I'm making my second flap there. Now I will rotate the patient. In this case, I'm going to show you an infusion cannula, same trocar, but going into the pars plana. You can fix this very comfortably here. I showed you trocar AC maintainer. Now I'm showing you infusion retinal cannula also. Now the next trick in these large things is to watch this technique which we are doing. After the vitrectomy, I'm going to make a small iridectomy in the area of the scleral flaps. The reason is very simple. I told you before it's a large eye. So by doing this, I'll be able to come more anteriorly and make my sclerotomy more anteriorly and without any damage to the iris. Because now when you go into the 22 gauge sclerotomy, it will go from sclera into the iridectomy and come into the vitreous cavity. That's what you're going to see just now in a second. There you can see. Once you have done that, I don't need this lens and I don't need the bag at all. All it will do is give me disturbance. Remember one thing, these are progressive conditions. By fixing endocapsular rings, etc., we can do them. The problem is, after some years, they will lie on the retina, 10 years down the road. So advantage by this technique is, on the glued IOL is, it is permanent. Those lenses obviously cannot move because we are already fixing them permanently inside. So I don't need this lens matter or any capsule also when I'm doing this case. So all I've done is knocked it all off. Once it is got knocked off, now I go in to take my IOL inside. Take a lens of your choice. I prefer the J&J 3-piece because the haptics are extremely good. Now go in with the glued IOL forceps. Watch carefully now. I'm going to catch the haptic. Once the haptic tip is caught, there it is caught, ask your assistant to inject. So the assistant is injecting. Wait for the lens to unfold. When the lens unfolds, now pull out the haptic. Till then, don't pull it out. Now you do the handshake technique. All you do is flex it from one hand, go inside, transfer it now to the other side through the side port. You have taken the glued IOL forceps. Now the first one again goes through the sclerotomy, through the anterior sclerotomy, catches the tip of the haptic as you can see there. And once the tip is caught, then you externalize. So that completes this both the haptic externalization. Look at the time you have taken, nothing much. Now see carefully the amount of haptic externalized. Remember, it was a large eye, but we have a lot of haptic externalized. So once we have done that, now you have nothing else to do except tuck the haptics inside. So all you do here is take the Gabor-Charier's tunnel, tuck it inside, and simply glue the case down. I thought I have just a couple of minutes, so I'll just move on to the next thing which I wanted to show you is in the scaffold technique, basically, because this is what Keki also was perhaps the person who started this primarily, was using the simple system of using the HEMA shield there. But when you have a rupture like this and a subluxated cataract, remember one thing, here you can see I'm fixing my trocar AC maintainer so that I have fluid in the eye. Now, once you have done that, do your vitrectomy. Now, very simply with this is, all you have to do is take your intraocular lens and implant it inside in such a way that you're above the iris, but behind the nucleus. And you can see I'll be doing that just now. But remember, take a 3-piece IOL. Once you have taken the 3-piece IOL, the rest of the surgery becomes extremely easy because all you have to do is, you have now got a very comfortable posterior capsule of your own. All you need to do is go in with a phacoemulsification and emulsify this down. So that is basically the principle of IOL scaffold. And I showed you that in a simple case like that. I thought I'll just show it to you also in the last clipping, which I thought I'll just show you here for a second. And that is again to show you the IOL scaffold technique principally here. But what I wanted to show you here is, here you can see the patient has a PC rupture. All I do is fix my infusion cannula and I'll bring that piece up anteriorly. I wanted to show this on an animation. I've shown you the actual surgery, but here you see on an animation, we are bringing it on a PAL technique, the nucleus, which is perhaps might be about to sink down, doing some vitrectomy at the same time, bringing it up anteriorly. Once it is brought anteriorly, again, as I showed you in the actual surgery, inject the 3-piece IOL into the sulcus or above the iris, call is yours. You can keep one haptic outside also. Take in the phacoemulsification probe and emulsify this. Now you can use the same lens, put it into sulcus if you have, or glue it inside. Call is yours. So I'd like to thank Keki Mehta for inviting me for this lovely course of his on subluxated cataracts, lenses, and IOLs. I think this course has always been a success everywhere Keki holds it. And to be honest to you, he is the pioneer in all of this. Thank you very much, Keki.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Amar, for being with us. Your coming always makes the difference. Everybody waits only for you. And now I'm fairly certain, now that we have finished talking, a lot of people may shift. But they'll wait for Chitra and then shift. Happy to have you with us, Chitra. Thank you very much, Amar, once again. May I now request our next speaker, Dr. Chitra Ramamurthy, to talk. As you are aware, she's the chairman of the Eye Foundation and an astute surgeon, absolutely brilliant in her own right. And Chitra, we have ample time, so I'd like you to present at least two videos. Huh? Please proceed.
First and foremost, thanks a lot, Dr. Keki Mehta. I feel truly honored to be in your session. And it was a joy to watch Dr. Amar's surgeries. Compared to that, mine would be like a kindergarten performance. Having said that, let me give it a go. So these are cases where the lens has actually not gone into the vitreous, but the process has started off. So I'll be running you through a few videos. Now, this is apparently a very normal looking case, a well-dilated pupil, and then a nice round rhexis is being fashioned out. You are in one of those moods where you think nothing is absolutely going to go wrong, and then just the right amount of hydro. And if you see carefully, every step of it is going well, just a little decompression of the bag, just a little more viscoelastic to ensure that you nicely rotate, you don't stress your zonules, and then just little debulking of the nucleus. So things are going good. And then the right kind of chop, nothing too deep. Everything is perfect and fine. And you have made a clear cut chop. And then you go on to make your next chop. The process is on. The surgery is going to get, but there you go. The nucleus fragment has gone in apparently. So now you need to immediately inject viscoelastic, create a barrier. You need to get all your other pieces forward. Even that piece was not deep down, it was very much behind. Everything gets pulled forward, and you need to be conscious. If there is a vitreous there, you need to deal with it. But because enough viscoat was there and it was just the vitreous did not even get time. So with very gentle low flow parameters, again and again, going back and pushing the vitreous base behind, and the phacoemulsification is done, keeping the second instrument like a temporary scaffold, and the surgery was done. Now, this is an old video wherein now I wouldn't have done it, but on hindsight, I did manage to salvage the moment. And then the ease with which I'm able to remove the cortex is an indicator that the vitrectomy has been adequate. And then all it is about placing the lens on the rhexis and doing an optic capture. Now, this is a situation where the surgery is nearly done and you see that small epinucleus sitting there. So then, you know, it's a large enough rhexis, but you want to place a single piece IOL in the bag. So you know there is no viscoelastic, the vitreous face is not disturbed. So this is when I would use what Amar would talk of, the IOL scaffold technique, wherein although the rhexis, the posterior PCR is a little on the larger side, I very gently go in and place my single piece bag and ensure that the haptic don't open up, but gently are unfolded so that there's no stretch. Nowhere does the AC area of PCR increase. And it is now that with very low flow parameters, I get the tiny epinucleus fragment out. And then, of course, go ahead and do, if there is any vitreous, I would try to remove the vitreous. If it has come forward, this was moved, but there was nothing there. And it was all about just removing the viscoelastic and completing the case. Now, this is a situation where everything was going well. There's sudden AC shallowing, and there you see the nuclear fragment ready to go into the vitreous, and you immediately, probably I should have injected viscoelastic, but I have removed my phaco probe because of the urgency of the moment. And then I go in with my two instruments. Of course, the nucleus fragment had not gone into mid-vitreous, was just very much towards the exit of the bag. So it is brought up. Now, if it has gone into the mid-vitreous cavity, I wouldn't fool around with what, as I did now. Then I would inject viscoelastic underneath the nuclear fragment, above it also, so that I do not in any way injure the endothelium. And now I would go about enlarging my incision. because the plan of action here is not to deal it with the way I dealt it then, but to inject an IOL scaffold. Now, this is a 3-piece IOL, a beautiful technique, which actually was a great salvage for all these moments. You are allowed to leave the haptics on the rhexis, but if you feel there has not been much of a vitreous disturbance, you could even position the IOL into the sulcus where it is meant to be. And now with this area aperture well protecting the nuclear fragment, you end up doing a supra capsular phacoemulsification, no doubt, but you could bring down your parameters. You could inject a little bit of viscoelastic, not to over distend the bag, just a little bit, and ensuring that the anterior chamber is stable. You're done with this dangerous nuclear fragment sitting there. The story doesn't end here. You need to address the vitreous. So you go behind either your main port or go to the side port and do a good vitrectomy. Try to clear up that area completely and surely. Yes, you should. If you see any strands in front, go in front of the IOL, cut it again. But you could again go in and inject some triamcinolone, which will give you a lot of visibility about how much residual vitreous is there. Deal with it. And then you found that the IOL is right in its place and the surgery is done. Now, this is the last case, which I'm not the last case, second last, wherein things are going good. It's a large nucleus. I'm sure there's hardly any epinuclear shell, practically a hypermature cataract, which could be even floating. And these are the cases where the posterior capsule could be rather fragile. And lo behold, the nucleus has started sinking into the vitreous. So then with the second instrument, I would hold it. I would try to inject viscoelastic. But sometimes when you realize that the vitreous is already coming in, you do just a little bit of focal vitrectomy at this point of time. Don't go deep into the vitreous because you're actually breaking the vitreous face more and more, and you need to get this nuclear fragment out. You don't want to send this case to your retina surgeon. So having done that, now I enlarge this incision. May not be the best of solutions, making a larger corneal incision, but there was things were even more hazardous now. So it mandated that I use my Vectis, get the IOL out, then go back and suture the main wound. You don't want your anterior chamber to shallow when you're doing a vitrectomy, and ensure that the second irrigation fluid doesn't go into the vitreous and overhydrate the vitreous. After a good vitrectomy, place the IOL on the rhexis. A situation may come that this epinucleus was somehow missed. You didn't realize that it had gone through the zonules into the vitreous cavity. The patient comes to you the next day in that setting. It makes sense to go through the pars plana route because the lens is already sitting there. You don't want to go in the anterior route and have a gush of vitreous coming forward and the little bit of PC which is holding the lens giving way. So you need to go through the pars plana route where you are addressing the vitreous at its home. So there is less of vitrectomy which is needed, less of gush of vitreous coming forward, and you can have the same posterior capsule intact there. And all you need to do is clear up the visual axis, ensure that a good vitrectomy is done, and then position the lens in the sulcus as it's where to be and complete the case. This is the last of the case. Believe me, it's not the story of the nucleus only, but sometimes right at the end of it, there is a small flap of PCR which has occurred. Of course, the main nucleus and epinucleus is out. Keep your phaco probe in. Do not deepen allow the AC to shallow. Go ahead through the side port, inject viscoelastic. Even at this point of time, with so much cortex there, you could still very gently unfold a single piece acrylic into the bag. Always remember, when there is a PCR and you have not converted into a PCC, you need to be very, very careful because this PCR can anytime rip, and the whole plan of placing a single piece IOL in the bag could become a complete disaster. And now this IOL is going to act as a scaffold, is going to prevent the vitreous coming forward. And with low flow parameters, you could remove all the cortex and get done with it. So it's a brilliant discovery using this IOL, which will salvage you in many of these moments. Thank you very much, Dr. Keki, for having given me this chance.
Thank you very much for your talk. It was so kind of you to leave your main hall running there and to come to us. Very kind of you. I do appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.
Chitra. That was a marvelous talk. It was something well worth it waiting for.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dr. Kudlu. As you are aware about Dr. Kudlu, he is he's in Prasad Netralia in Udupi. He won the Rajyotsava Award of the Karnataka State. An exceptional surgeon in his own right. Has got a lot of new developments which he does. and we look forward very much for his talk today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, KK sir, and good morning all the panelists, and good morning Cyrus. It was like I was just remembering almost 10 years before when I did CM in my own hospital, Prasad Netralaya. KK sir, along with the madam, came to my hospital and gave a fantastic talk quite long back, 10 years before, and blessed us and went. Once again, I thank KK sir for this opportunity. So today I'll be talking about prevention is better than cure for subluxation. So most of the speaker will be talking about the what and all the methods to prevent subluxation or treat subluxation, but I'll be talking only about the prevention. I don't have any financial disclosure. So subluxated lens possesses one of the gravest risk of complication during the surgery. Preventing it from occurring is most important aspect to focus. Vitrectomy and fixated IOLs always results in some degree of irreversible vision loss. So it's very important. Caution and preventive measures will minimize the risk of better outcomes. So indication for surgery in subluxation, deterioration of the vision, lenticular opacity with poor visualization, lens-induced glaucoma, uveitis, or anisometropy or refractive error not unable to help with the spectacle correction, and even impending dislocation of the lens. So these are the complications you can expect after subluxation, that is glaucoma. It can happen glaucoma, uveitis, corneal decompensation, and retinal detachment. So coming to the preoperative evaluation is very important. Evaluate the lens position and identify the phacodonesis or the cataract grade. You need to know the exact degree of the zonular loss, whether the presence of vitreous in the antechamber or not, you need to find out. If an inferior subluxation often indicates 360 degree of zonular insufficiency, always combined with the effect of gravity. So always you need to know about how much is the visual prognosis. So patient counseling, very important. But I always even do patient with the subluxation about the genetic counseling. If they are, I suspect a morphone, always I send them to the physician. So always you have to think in your mind, there is a possibility need of secondary or fixated intraocular lens. This is the one video I'm just showing you during the table. See, this is not a case exactly subluxated before, but what I wanted to show in this particular case, see someone like a grade 4 cataract, they picked the chopper. What they have picked up is also, I feel that it's not a sharp chopper or a, the chopper, it is a regular chopper. He was finding difficulty because of excessive manipulation. In this case, I think lens has become, zonils are become loose and lens has become subluxated. So whenever keep an eye on when you're operating a hard cataract, pseudo exfoliation, small people, hyperopic patient, because with the crowded eye, high lens thickness, and especially older patient. See, there are few of the videos I took from my friend Deepak Megur. So this is about the intraoperative consideration when you're doing high risk cases. If the patient has got a small eye, do a lateral canthotomy. If you think that there is a high posterior pressure, give IV mannitol. I prefer to do a larger rhexis, how Deepak is doing in this case, with the help of a forceps. And always limit your hydro procedure. This is very important. Do not rotate the nucleus excessively because it will even make the subluxation worse. I always prefer to do a vertical chop, especially when I'm operating hard cataract. And the guarded lateral separation of the nucleus is very important. This is the management protocol. If it is minimum, some people even give the spectacle correction. If it is marked, I think try a spectacle correction. People used to do something called optical iridectomy before. Even people used to put myotics. But coming to the surgical removal, I think you can take through the limbal route with the help of hooks. I'll be coming in the later part of in my part, or you can go through the pars plana. So this is the main chart I want to show you. Subluxation less than 3 o'clock hours. Do a slow phaco PCIL. Not possible, go ahead with the pars plana lensectomy. Subluxation between 3 to 5 o'clock. Slow phaco with CTR, Cioni ring. Not possible, go ahead with the pars plana lensectomy. Put a iris clip lens. Subluxation between 5 to 7 o'clock. Do slow phaco. Reduce all the parameters. Cioni ring. Even you can add a help up with the CTR with the Ahmad segment.
Boss, you're frozen. You're not moving forward. We can't hear you talk. talk. Dr. Kudlu, you're frozen. Dr. Kudlu, can you go back and restart? Dr. Kudlu, we can't hear you nor see you.
Maybe his internet connection, something has gone wrong with it.
Yeah. Maybe we can proceed ahead and then take him back a little later when his connection improves. Is Dr.
Sir will be speaking next, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Dr. Lane, sir. Good morning, Keki, sir. Good morning, Amar, sir. Good morning, Chitra, ma'am, Cyrus, KP. Good morning, everybody.
Young guy who has clear photophobia. He visited Nagpur for some famous.
Yes, I am there. I will share my screen.
Sir, you have to mute the other session.
I have muted other session. Okay, this is the topic allocated to me by Dr. Keki Mehta, sir. Now, why this topic is allocated to me, that I am not understanding.
Because sorry, sir, like there was a heavy raining. I lost my connectivity in between. I am so sorry for the presentation.
No matter.
Sir.
Then KP sir can finish his presentation.
Yes, yes, you can finish. You can finish.
Okay, sir, stop sharing. I will share.
I have stopped sharing.
Okay, sorry, sir. I am really sorry.
Hi, KP Bhaiya.
Fine, madam. I am really sorry for what's happened, but it is not. It is out of my. So I just shared. I was just talking about the.
No, you were on the previous. You were on slide number 10.
Yeah.
You got muted.
Yeah, yeah.
11.
Can you able to see my slides?
Yes, sir. We can see you. We can hear you.
So see, these are the surgical tips. I think you need to do a good Rexis 5 mm central as possible. Use high molecular weight viscoelastic. Always, it has to be very important enough to overlap the optic edge after IOL placement, and also risk of development of capsule contraction, and use a direct chop because it allows to putting less stress of the zonules. These are the special instrument, very much important when you are dealing with the subluxated lens. Especially when you are doing a poorly dilating eyes, you need to have all these hooks, Malugian rings readily available with you. You need to have CTRs and all segments with you. Important to have a vitrectomy unit with you, but do not forget to keep the high molecular weight viscoelastic. These are the devices used. Once again, I am thankful to Deepak Megur who has given. After the Rexis also, you can put these iris hooks, but you have to be very much careful when you're putting these hooks. Make sure that you are not engaging the capsular axis. If you engage the capsular axis, you may have some trouble. So these are the indication, especially patient with a floppy iris or small pupil, you may have to put these kind of devices. Coming to the hydro and the phaco, I think I had already told, I'll not be. So this is multi-direction hydro is very important. CTR can be inserted initially if you are having the gap. When this thing, chop technique without sculpting is the most friendly technique, I always feel. So cortical removal is also very, very important. In presence of extreme laxity, removal can be done with the dry aspiration, or I prefer to do with the bimanual aspiration. Then this position also you can put the CTR. So IOL placement, you can put it either in the bag or you can put it in the sulcus depending upon how is your back condition. So these are the different rings available in the market, Alcon ring, Cioni ring. So I will not be talking indications. Once again, all lens subluxation, pseudo exfoliation, high myopia, Marfan syndrome. There are three types, three sizes available: 10 mm, 11 mm, 12 mm, depending upon the axial length of the patient side. So key points to success of CTR is use a high viscosity viscoelastic. Making the incision is very important. Low flow rate, low vacuum, and low bottle height to perform the slow motion phacoemulsification. I will not be talking much about the Cioni ring. Once again, indications are same, but these are rings, actually Cioni rings designed for the scleral fixation with the sutures. So these are other segment devices in the surgery, that is Ahmed capsular tension ring. These are helpful in once again fixing the back to the sclera. So in conclusion, this is one of the case I did the last time. Patients with the albinism with a subluxated lens, you can see, keep your mind cool. Dilate open the pupil with the retractor. Do the rhexis. See, while doing the rhexis, I found out there is subluxation. So need not have to become panic. Now I am putting even capsule hook also. Try to stabilize the bag. Then you go ahead with the phaco. I think you come out with it very easily. In summary, creating the rhexis carefully, placement of hooks and retractor carefully, avoiding intracapsular procedure that can place stress on the zonules. IOL implantation should be done carefully without existing pressure on the zonules. Once again, I thank KK sir. Once again, sorry for the problem I had given you because of the
heavy rain
problem with the connectivity. Thank you, sir.
It's all, and we enjoyed your talk very much. You literally took each of the important key events and you put them carefully into its proper, one would say, khata. Thank you so much for your talk.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Lane, sir, for the opportunity.
Dr. Lane, would you like to please share your screen?
Yes.
Just to introduce Dr. Lane, as everybody knows, Dr. Lane is the dean, was the dean of JJ at head of the department once upon a time, now head of the entire section handling the COVID, as well as Director General of Health Services in Maharashtra. One of our most respected ophthalmologists, a brilliant surgeon, a man whose ability to organize and manage difficult situations is exceptional. We are honored to have him with us in this course. Dr. Lane, please proceed.
Thank you, my guru, my mentor, who taught me everything. And this topic is also given to me that I'm not operating with the femtosecond. So the KK Mehta sir want that I should purchase a femtosecond laser in the JJ hospital. For that, I think this topic is given to me. So the nil financial interest. The other thing is the femtosecond laser. You know the how that works. So femtosecond, this ultra hot pulses, then T's, then plasma, then cavitation, accuracy, everything is there in the characteristics of the femtosecond. So that everybody knows. So this is about the some photographs of the femtosecond lasers. And what are the advantages? See the incision, capsulotomy, and nucleus fragmentation. Because of this, there is IOL centration, and in pediatric and hypermature and subluxated, this centration do help us. Then the nucleus fragmentation, nucleus is softening. Then the less phaco power is used, and cumulative display dissipated energy and the effective phaco time is reduced. So here you will see the incision, the self-sealing clear corneal incision, the superior visual outcomes, and the faster recovery. This is the endophthalmitis following the cataract surgery. So increase the thickness at the incision site when you go for the conventional. The gapping at the internal aspect of the corneal wound, the Descemet membrane is detached. But when you go for the laser made wound may show less features of damage and faster healing than the conventional. And then this is not proven precisely, but it is a experience. Now the capsulotomy, if it is a less than 5.5 millimeter or it is large, if it is a less, the anterior capsular fibrosis, then the hyperopic cyst, and increased rates of the tilt and decentration when it is the large capsulotomy. Size of the capsular rhexis has a direct relation to the effective lens position. The difference of only 1 millimeter in lens position can cause approximately 1.25 millimeter diopter change in the refractive error. Now these are the flags and the manual. You will see the shape and size, the subluxated lens, the femtosecond laser assisted cataract surgery in patient with Marfan syndrome and the subluxated lenses. You will see this is the subluxated lenses, and then reduces the rhexis stress on the zonules, less use of emulsification power, and minimum damage to the zonules when you are going with the femto. The flags is better than the manual in the subluxated lens. The endothelial cell loss meta-analysis done on 5 study demonstrated significantly that the endothelial cell loss is after the phacoemulsification than the flax. So it is much less than in the flax. Now see, this is what is there. Flax can be most beneficial for the mature cataract, those with the zonular compromise and with compromised cornea, since decreased EPT will be dimmed. So that is the effective phaco time. And then the corneal pathology, you will see the flax is better than the manual in when there is a pathology in the cornea. So the posterior capsular rupture, the posterior capsular complication rate with the femtosecond assistant cataract surgery is 0.3%. And here also the 0.3% in the manual, it is same. So if you see the parameters in the flax, you will see all these parameters are excellent. And in manual, the incision and also the EPT is equal in flax and manual. See, this is a subluxated lens, and this is a courtesy of Dr. K.K. Mehta, because I am not having the femtosecond lesson. And this is what the, when you see this, you can see the subluxation and the, now here you can see the capsule, it is a decentered rhexis, because on which side the lens is there and on that side there is a subluxation. So rhexis can be centered decentrally so that it will center in the center of the capsule, and the rhexis is done. You can see the here the rhexis and the fragmentation of the cataract is done. And here the trauma, when we go for the phacoemulsification, there is so much of the trauma which is totally avoided, and you can see the laser is going on. Now it is a courtesy K.K. Mehta, and you can see the laser is done. The femtosecond laser is done. The cataract fragmentation is also done. And after doing that, you will see the now again the capsular hooks are used. So these capsular hooks just to fix at the subluxated capsule. And see is after fixing, see the hooks are fixed in the bag, and you have seen this once it is fixed in the bag. Can you see here another hook is now fixed in the bag? So the last hook here, it is fixed in the bag, and now the capsule is again fixed with the CTR. So this is the CTR ring. So before going for the phaco, the CTR ring is fixed. And then, as you know, this cortex, it is like a cortex now, because nucleus is fragmented and it is coming like a cortex. So here the phaco power or pressure, or the, you can say the is not there on the capsule, or because of that it is very easy to remove the lens. And you can see this is the CTR injected. As the hooks are there, capsule was in the place, and the CTR is injected. And then the capsule, this as the capsule is fixed, then the lens is implanted, the hooks are removed, and the lens is implanted. See here. So the centration will be perfect as the CTR is there, and the you can see the multifocal IOL is implanted here in such a subluxated cataract. It is a conclusion is femto helps to simplify and reduce complication of subluxated cataract. Adequate capsular support by ring or segment is very, very important, and femto increases safety of the procedure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your beautiful talk. I look forward to operating on your femto at JJ. May I now request our next speaker, Dr. Ragini, who is the HOD of ophthalmology, JJ, an extraordinary person in her own rights. a person who has the ability to organize events is completely out of the world. She is the one who basically is responsible for our BOA congresses, which we held, especially this year, which went so flawlessly, despite having more than 3,500 attendees. I give you Dr. Ragini. Dr. Ragini, please.
Sir, I'm blessed. Sir, we are blessed to have you as a teacher and guide. And I learned organization from you. You have to take all the credit with Dr. Lani sir for teaching everything that I know. Respected Padma Shri Dr. Keki sir, Padma Shri Dr. Lani sir, Amar Agarwal sir, Cyrus, Chitra, KP, everybody present here today. Sir, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to present. So this is my topic, and there are a lot of various risk factors why the lenses subluxate: trauma, previous ocular surgery, special retinal surgery, intravitreal injections, they cause Marfan's homocystinuria, pseudoexfoliation. These are the various causes due to which we find subluxated lenses. And there may be progressive and or generalized weak zonules in these cases. The management of the subluxated lenses, there is some overlap between KP's slides and my slides, but I'll try to make it as brief as possible. So the most important thing is that when a patient of subluxation comes to you, you have to plan a strategy which is divided into investigations, the preoperative precautions that you take, the intraoperative measures that you take, and the postoperative monitoring of a patient. Now, investigations, it is very, very important, and it is not only for a subluxated cataract patient, but every patient whom you plan to do cataract surgery should be dilated and a slit lamp examination should be done. The rule of the thumb is that when you do a slit lamp examination, you will see the subluxation, you will see whether there is vitreous in the anterior chamber.
What I'm just saying is, in case he's got
and the rule is that whatever subluxation you see on the slit lamp will be much less than what you see on the table. So you have to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
If there is a possibility that you can get a UBM done, it is important because you can, by UBM, assess the relation of the ocular structures to each other and whether there is any more damage occurring. B-scan and retina examination is a must. These are also important for medico-legal purposes because if the patient has had history of trauma, then the retina examination is very important because you may miss out something in the retina, which may be a cause of poor post-operative vision. So this completes the gamut of a complete workup and measurement of intraocular pressure because the patients who had trauma or associated disease can be having glaucoma, could be having glaucoma, so that should be taken care of. So these things are very, very important. Preoperative precautions is counseling of a patient. It's extremely important because you have to sit the patient down and tell the patient that this is not a straightforward surgery like any other cataract. This is complicated. The surgery might take a longer time because if the patient is watching on TV, he might say that the previous patient got operated in so and so time and these things were not taken care of, or some different techniques are being performed. The need for a vitrectomy. So a vitrectomy standby anyway should be available for all cataracts, but you have to ensure that definitely and 100% it is there for the subluxate lens. And the post-operative possibility of a retinal detachment and the cystoid macular edema, vitreous loss are real and they should be kept in mind. So even though the patient may have good post-operative visual recovery, what happens a few months later has to be watched and the patient has to be warned about it. So intraoperative, what are the measures that you will take? So this is the algorithm for the intraoperative, which Krishna Prasad has already described, that how your management takes place depends on the amount of subluxation. If the subluxation is very, very small and it does not hamper with your surgery, you can go ahead with a very careful surgery. If it is about say superior or inferior, you can do with a CTR with an IOL implantation. If it is a larger, then you can use more devices. And if it is so large that you may have to do an intracapsular surgery, or you may have to go for a secondary IOL implantation and an iris fixated lens, the merits of which can be decided by you. Any technique that works in your hand, but which is the best for the patient, is the most important thing in your life. When you start the surgery, you have to plan the incision. So how do you plan the incision? Like if you're doing a phacoemulsification, you have to plan it in such a way that it is diagonally opposite the site of the zonular dialysis, so that there is very little or the least stress on the maneuvering that you are doing. So that is extremely important, and he should not, but at the same time, surgery should not be done in an uncomfortable position just so all that is very, very important. The incision itself will cause some amount of refractive errors, and that also has to be kept in mind. So all these things are very, very important. The amount of viscoelastic plays a very, very important role because it protects the corneal endothelium. Your maneuvering, and the time taken for surgery is going to be more than a routine phacoemulsification. Protecting the cornea, which is like God, and the endothelium, which cannot be replaced, is very, very important. And also a good viscoelastic will prevent the subluxation or will put pressure on the vitreous from prolapsing further. Capsulorhexis should be away from the area. It should be started in an area away from the dialysis. The trypan blue dye is very, very helpful because it stains the capsule and it makes your life much easier. And it should be centered on the crystalline lens and not on the pupil or the corneal apex. So the lens is, it's decentered, but one must remember that the rhexis should be centered on the lens and not in the center of the pupil. So as you can see over here, the lens is decentered. You can see a white cataract with a trypan blue stained capsule, and you can see the orange glow, and that shows a large area of subluxation. As you can see over here, the rhexis appears to be decentered, but actually you are centering it on in the center of the lens, because later on you will be trying to use devices to inflate the bag and make it central so that your rhexis becomes central too. So this is extremely important. You can use the needle or the Utrata forceps or specific forceps to do this. Hydrodissection or hydromaneuvers should be very, very, very careful, because you will be by increasing the amount of fluid in the bag, you will be increasing the volume, the weight of the bag, which can cause a pressure on the zonules, or which can cause more subluxation or dislocation. So small amount of fluids, multiple points of hydro, if at all no hydro, but very little hydro, very, very careful hydro, because otherwise we'll be creating trouble. The lens orientation, the placement of the lens is very, very important, because you have a lens which has a 12.5 millimeter diameter, and the loops itself, act to inflate the bag and to stretch the bag. So if it is an SICS or a 3-piece lens, you can use these loops to your advantage to stretch the bag itself, which is going to be so important. So orienting the IOL is very, very important. There are two schools of thought, and whichever suits you the best, but I always find that it is an advantage to use the haptic to stretch the bag. Capsular tension rings have been described so much in detail by KPs, and they have changed the way that subluxator lenses are being, cataracts are being treated. He has already described the various sizes, open and closed loops. Now, when do you insert and how do you insert it? So they are simply inserted with the use of forceps. They have these eyelets which can be used with a Sinskey hook, and they can be inserted very well. So as you can see over here, this is the CTR ring which is being used, and you can see that it is under the capsule, and it is being put inside the eye, as you can see over here. So this is how you can place the CTR ring before or after the removal of the lens, or before the implantation of the cortex. So contraindications are if there is a PC tear, or if you don't have a CCC, or if there is zonular weakness. So this is the case that I'm going to show of phacoemulsification in a subluxated lens. As you can see that the rhexis is being made over here. And you can see the traumatic cataract, because you can see the rosette, which is very, very visible over here. And the rhexis, which is in the center of the lens, as you can see. and the gentle hydro. You can see the golden ring, but small amount of fluids and a gentle hydro is being done. As you can see over here, this is a very soft lens, and you can see the subluxation.
Ragini, you can continue. Time hai. You can continue.
So, Mehta sir, can I continue?
Please ignore it. Just keep going.
Yes, sir.
You can
so
continue.
As you can see over here, that this is a soft cataract, and you can now, it is slightly, the nucleus is slightly made free so as to not make or give any pressure on the lens itself. And then now sometimes you don't want to do iris plane phaco, but not to give pressure on the bag. You can do it by using a good viscoelastic to protect the endothelium. And this is a very soft cataract, and you may not use to divide. You can just use more aspiration. But as you can see over here, you can see the subluxated, but the lens is out of the bag. It is on the iris plane, and only the aspiration or vacuum is used. Luckily, this was a soft cataract in a young patient, and you can see the folded capsule over there. In this case, it was decided to use the capsular tension ring after the phacoemulsification was complete. And as you can see over here, the capsular bag is being stretched by the use of this CTR ring, and then you can see the folded capsule opening up, the bag stretching, and the area of subluxation visibility getting smaller and smaller. I'm really sorry for really overshooting my time. And this is the placement of the ring.
Please take your time.
And as you can see over here, the CTR ring has been put inside, and you have to be very careful while removing the cortex, because otherwise the CTR ring gets pulled, as you can see. So very gentle teasing movements ensure a complete cortical cleanup. And then this is the insertion of the intraocular lens. Which can be put inside the bag because the bag is inflated. There is availability of the space for you to put in the bag. One must remember here that if necessary, if there was vitreous, this surgery can be completed only by a complete vitrectomy, because as Jaffe has said, that it is the vitreous where it should not be causes all the problems. So vitrectomy is a part of the procedure. Mehta sir, I once again apologize for taking this extra minute, which was not fair at all, but I'm extremely sorry for that.
Not at all. We have ample time. Thank you so much for that talk. As a matter of fact, you had us on the edge of our chair when you were operating. This really was a difficult case. The fact that you managed to get such a good result is a tribute to the fact that you're an exceptional surgeon.
Thank you so much, sir.
Now, may I request Dr. Amar, please, to give your additional talks, please.
Yeah, I'll just share my screen just now, Kiki.
Yeah.
So basically, as I was saying just before also about Keki, I thought I should say a few words on even Professor Lahane and Ragini, because I think the amount of surgeries which both Lahane and Ragini have done together, Keki, I think you'll agree with me, is really huge numbers. I'm not so sure anybody else, even the country, has done that many cases, and with giving such great results. On top of that, Professor Lahane is a COVID warrior, right from the top to the bottom, fighting for Maharashtra and the country, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's something really, we have to commend them both for it. So let's now talk on subluxated lenses and cataracts more. See this particular case, that's the intraoperative view. There's a massive subluxation. Now, I showed earlier to Keki in your course, the glued IOL. Those are what we would use for progressive conditions. If it is not a progressive condition, again, I repeat, for a progressive condition, I will definitely go in for a glued IOL. But if it's not a progressive condition, another way, there are many ways to skin a cat, as you all know. I've done the rexes. Watch carefully. I made my scleral flap exactly opposite the maximum area of subluxation. Now you go in with a sclerotomy needle and just go in from the sclera into the vitreous cavity there. Now the game plan is very simple. This is a paper clip capsular hook. Now what we are going to do is we are going to take this inside, and it is made of PMMA. It's made by Morcher. To be honest to you, this innovation was Susan Jacobs, and I'm going to pass it through that sclerotomy. Now, if you realize this clip, it's like a paper clip. So it just latches onto the rhexis margin. So you need a good rhexis. Remember that you can't do this if the rhexis is not there, or if you have a torn rhexis. So that's made of PMMA because we found it gives better strength. It locks onto the rhexis margin the way I showed you just now. So now, just to be on the safer side, we are also fixing capsular hooks. But remember, these are temporary. These are not going to be remaining inside the eye all the time. This is just for the surgical time. The paper clip will remain permanently inside the eye. Now you can pull this as much as you want. Here you can see on the animation, and that's the best part of this capsular hook. I can pull it as much as I want. You can see now, even when you fix it, if you fix with suture, the problem is the suture can be too tight or too loose. Here, there's no issue there because you can tuck as much as you want. So here you can see we are bending it, flexing it inside, and as much as you want, we can tuck or you can untuck, depending on whether you want to make it tight or you want to make it loose. Now, once that's done, the next step is to do the phacoemulsification. But remember, now I have a full bag intact. So it's not a problem at all in how to manage this case. Here you can see I'm just managing this whole thing fully there. And once my nucleus is gone, now I have given radial support. Remember that. So I need to give a circumferential support. So I'm using this endocapsular ring inside the bag there, which gives me a full circumferential support. Now I go in with the IA and remove the cortex. It's very easy to remove the cortex. Now the final portion is I take off the capsular hooks. As I told you, they were temporary. They don't need to remain in that eye. Now you put any lens of your choice. Here we are putting a 3-piece IOL. But to be honest, you have a bag fully intact right now, which is fully stable with a glued capsular hook. So you can just put any lens of your choice. Now look at how the case looks when it's completed. All I need to do is do stromal hydration here, apply the fibrin glue and seal the portion on the top there. And that seals this case there. So the flap goes in place. The conjunctiva is in place. Now the question comes, how did the patient behave? And you can see here, post-operative, day 1, vision is 20/20. You can see the capsular hook present there. We also published this subsequently in the JCRS, and the American Academy in the global contest, this won the grand prize. So Susan had won it. I think it was the second AO global contest in which we won the second prize. Do we have time or shall I close up right now, Keki?
Carry on, carry on. Carry on.
Okay. So now since we have, I thought I'll just show you something else. Now you see another problem which we tend to face is this which we face here. And that is if the patient develops a drop. So when the subluxation is massive and sinking inside, then you are in slight trouble there. And you can see that's where the subluxated lens is lying there. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to catch it with the vitrectomy probe. I made my flaps ready. Once I have caught it, I'm trying to bring it up anteriorly, but it is breaking a little bit. You can see there. So a lot of cortex also comes with it. All you need to do at that stage is knock off the cortex. Once the cortex is out, then we are much safer there. And we continue the vitrectomy. The nucleus is also just behind the iris there at that stage. And it can just come out with the PAL technique. Once I have brought this subluxed cataract up anteriorly, and I'm going to place it above the iris. Once it is above the iris, I'm much safer there now. All I need to do is then implant my 3-piece IOL. So here you can see I'm implanting my 3-piece IOL above the iris. Remember, it goes above the iris, but behind the nucleus. The idea is very simple. We are going to lock onto that area so that the IOL acts like a posterior capsule. So you can see the nucleus now is lying above the intraocular lens. All I need to do is, once my one haptic is there, then I will put in my second haptic. Here you can see the second haptic now going into the area there above the iris. Now you go in with a phaco probe, and I'm using my air pump on. As you can see here, we have gas force infusion. So the endothelium is very well protected. Once the nucleus is removed, now use iris hooks. So now I'm using iris hooks to dilate that pupil to see if any cortex or anything is inside. It's not there. But now see, do you have lens or rhexis or no? In this case, you can see I have no rhexis worth the name. So all you need to do is stabilize this lens with the glued IOL technique. The lens is lying in the AC. All I need to do is transfer it from the anterior chamber to the posterior chamber. How do you do this? Use the handshake technique. So I'm transferring it from one hand to the other and catching the tip of the haptic. Once the tip of the haptic is caught, you will see I will externalize that haptic. Now, once my first haptic is out, I then subsequently go ahead and do my second haptic. And you'll see that's happening just now. The final portion is to see both haptics externalized. Remember, when you're externalizing this, you got to catch the tip of the haptic. If you don't, you'll be in trouble. Now, look carefully. The tip of the haptic is not caught yet. So I'm transferring it still. I am in no hurry till the tip is caught. I will transfer from one hand to the other, still some more, till the tip is caught fully. And once that is caught, then only I will pull it out. Once both haptics are pulled out, you will see for shortage of time, I'll just move this a bit forward here to show you the tuck. Now remember the final portion. We do the single pass fourth row pupillasty. In subluxated cataracts or subluxated IOLs, this is an integral portion many times because you might get an optic capture in some cases and you don't want that. So from one side, you pass the straight needle. From the other side, you have a 30 gauge needle through a paracentesis. Remember, paracentesis is only on one side. Then all you need to do is do the single pass. Once the single pass is done, you will see, bring out that loop out. Once the loop is out, remember the number 4. 4 times you do it and pull it, and you'll see how the case looks when it's completed. And that's the case completed. The rest of the procedure is very, very simple. All I need to do is apply the glue and seal everything down. So, Keki, I'd like to congratulate you again for this lovely course of yours. If anyone has any questions, we have, I think, a couple of minutes left. Please ask.
Cyrus, you have any talk?
No.
We are finishing the time, Keki. It's 12:22 already.
The time is over now. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be over in what, 8 minutes, no?
No, 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
You have to close at 12:25.
The problem, Amar, is after you show your expertise, nobody is left. People are left speechless. How will they ask you a question?
Okay, the point is that I think they're explanting IOLs. Okay.
So I'll just show one quick video, 2-3 minutes.
Sure,
because we have some time to do time pass. So basically, this patient had a fall and lands up with this kind of scenario. So what has happened is that the IOL and the haptics, this IOL is probably put years ago, they have parted ways. So once I go inside, we realize that there is a IOL with the haptics trapped in the capsular bag. Make a tunnel. If you notice, this is a 2.8 tunnel because I want to get in with this little cutter. It looks like an alligator, basically. So it holds the lens very nicely.
Make a big screen.
So this is an old silicone lens from the time that I wasn't operating. So this probably, I think you all must have seen this, probably late 90s, early 2000. Because by the time I started operating, there were no more silicone lenses.
Cyrus, make it big screen.
And out come the pieces. This was probably a 5.5 optic, 3-piece silicone IOL. Now what I'm trying to do is open the capsular bag. But this is not a very good idea in this case, and I should have just gone in retrospect with a 3-piece lens. Now I have a rent. So when this kind of situation occurs, quickly put Viscode, tamponade the rent, and first put in your IOL. Once the IOL is in to tamponade the rent, then put the haptics into the capsular bag. Because remember, you are going to have a little bit of vitreous, and the longer you wait and the more you decompress the anterior chamber, the more vitreous will come into the AC. So you have to use a vitrector. Now you can see the pupil is peaked here. So you must use your vitrector, or if you can't really tell where the vitreous is, you must put triamcinolone acetate and stain it. You can see the visco is coming back out and the pupil has become nice and round. So you can manage it like this. This is the end of the case, and let's go back to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Cyrus. We have had a very good time. We have now just run out of time. We got exactly half a minute left. I'd like to thank all the speakers, and especially Dr. Lane and Ragini and Dr. Amar Agarwal for helping out, and Cyrus. It's been, I think, a good course. Looking forward to meeting all of you, or perhaps next year. Thank you all very much, and have a great AIOS meeting.
Thank you so much, sir, for inviting us. It was great learning from you, Amar Agarwal, sir, Lane, sir, Cyrus, Chitra, Kudlu, and everybody.